What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So we're hearing a lot more information from bank CEOs. They're talking about the coming recession. They're talking about the debt ceiling debate. And we need to really focus on this because the banks they're kind of the canary in the coal mine. When we look at them and see what they're doing as far as if they're laying people off, if they're refusing to hire new people, that's a good indicator, and I'm going to explain to you why that's so important. But first off, if you guys can do me a favor, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification, and then click all. By clicking all, you'll get notified anytime we post a video. We do daily videos here, so by clicking the bell notification and clicking all, you should be getting updated every day. Okay, so let's think about this. When it comes to banks, they know a lot about our spending habits, pretty much all of our spending habits. Unless you go to the bank and you get cash out, they pretty much know if you're using a credit card or debit card. They know where you're purchasing things. They know how much you're spending. So they have a bird's eye view of what's going on in our economy, and probably a much better view than politicians have in Congress and the White House. And so that's why we really need to pay attention to what they're saying, because they have a lot of this information. Just think about this. I went to the grocery store yesterday. I spent almost $200 on groceries. By the time I got home, that information had already posted on my bank account. So they know I went to the grocery store. They know how much I spent. And so when you start looking at things like that, and then you start thinking even further, they know if we're defaulting on our auto payments. They know if we're not paying our mortgage, if we're not paying rent. They have that information. And so when they start talking about different things when it comes to our economy, we need to pay attention, because they see what's going on before a lot of other people will see what's going on. Before these politicians will actually act on things, the banks have already let us know, hey, this is a problem. This is what we're seeing. And so in this video, I want to take some of these different quotes that we're hearing from some of these bank CEOs and try to decipher what they're really saying and where we're going to go in the future when it comes to our economy, recession, and all of that. So let's go ahead and I want to take a look at this first quote. And this is from the CEO of Bank of America, Moynihan. And so he says, we have to be prepared for that. And he's talking about a debt ceiling debate. He's talking about potentially going in default, which this is a real possibility. So he says we have to prepare for that, not only in this country, but in other countries around the world. You hope it doesn't happen, but hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy is what he's saying. So we're hoping that we don't go into default, but you know what? It's a possibility. So you prepare for it. Moynihan told an anchor, Poppy Harlow, on CNN this morning, noting the company is preparing as it would in a natural disaster. And so that's how serious they're taking it. That's how serious these bank CEOs are looking at this whole situation when it comes to the debt ceiling and raising the debt ceiling. Now, we're going to hear this debate going on and on and on for the next several months, which I think at this point it's ridiculous. I think they need to raise the debt ceiling. And if they want to talk about balancing a budget for 2024, that's fine. But we have to pay our bills now. And by waiting, what you're doing is you have a lot of these companies, these large companies. I'm going to show you how large these banks are. But you have a lot of these large companies that are saying, look, we're not going to do any more hiring. We're not going to do anything until we find out what's going on with this debt ceiling. Because just yesterday we got the CPI score, so we know what the consumer price index looks like, and it's slowly dropping. Not fast enough. I think the Federal Reserve is going to want inflation to drop faster than what it's dropping, and we saw it go from 6.5 in December to 6.4% in January. They want it to drop a lot faster. And when you look at individual items, some individual items are actually going up. So that means when it comes to food and things like that, inflation is still impacting those categories, and some of those categories are on the rise. And so this is something that these CEOs are seeing, and they're concerned not only about inflation, but they're also concerned about what's going on in Washington, because they haven't made a decision when it comes to this debt ceiling. And if they continue to hold that debt ceiling hostage, the closer that we come to going into, I mean, we're in default right now, but going to a point where we can't pay our bills anymore, that's when these companies are just they're going to be laying off a bunch of people, and that's going to just tank our economy. And so this is not good. This is not a good situation that we're in right now. And the banks are trying to let us know, hey, you guys need to do something, and this is what we're concerned about right now. And so if you want businesses to thrive, you need to do something about this debt ceiling. Now, I want to show you how large these banks actually are, because I think this is interesting. And so here are the largest 15 banks in the U.S. And so if you guys didn't know, the largest bank in the U.S. is JP Morgan Chase. And then you have Bank of America, and then you have Citigroup, and then you have Wells Fargo, and then U.S. Bancorp. So those are the top 5. And then when we look at the total assets, this will blow your mind. If you look at the very top here, JP Morgan Chase, $3.31 trillion. And then Bank of America, $2.41 trillion. And then Citigroup, $1.71 trillion. And then Wells Fargo, $1.71 trillion. U.S. Bancorp, $591.21 billion. So you see the total assets. You see how much money these companies have. And so because these banks have all these assets, they know exactly what's going on with our economy. And they're moving accordingly. Now, I want to show you something else when it comes to these banks. They're talking about when they talk about growing, they're actually talking about not doing anything right now, just pretty much waiting. And in some cases, actually laying people off. So let's check this out. Okay, and I took this article from Reuters, and it says at the top here, despite some easing concerns about an economic slowdown, the bank chiefs said they were managing headcount to curb costs. Goldman cut about 3,200 staff, or 6% of its workforce last month. So that was in December. We are in the position to lower the headcount, Solomon said. We've taken some action. We have a much tighter hiring plan in 2023 that entails less hiring, he said. So basically, they're not going to be hiring at the same rate that they normally do. And the main reason for that, they don't know what's going on with their economy, as well as they're looking at this debt ceiling. So this whole debt ceiling debate is causing a big problem when it comes to businesses wanting to grow. Bank of America will also manage its staffing through attrition. So they're not going to be hiring anyone. They're just going to basically wait until people retire. It aims to have a workforce of about 213,000 to 214,000 in the next 3 to 4 months. Moynihan said down from 216,823 at the end of 2022. So they're just going to wait this out. They're not going to be hiring anyone as well. And then Wells Fargo here, the chief financial officer, Mike Santamissimo, I think that's how you say it, told the Florida conference that things are going to continue to get a little worse when asked about the potential for recession. So the anticipation when it comes to Wells Fargo, the CFO here is saying that things are going to get worse. And he says a little worse, but that's being optimistic. It could get a lot worse. We don't know. Now, this is something I really want us to focus on, and this is coming from the Wells Fargo CFO. He says, while consumer spending remains healthy, credit card delinquencies are increasing. That is bad news. Credit card delinquencies if they're increasing, that means people are falling deeper into debt, and they're not paying that debt off. And so that's a snowball. That could be a snowball effect, and we could see a lot of people defaulting on their credit. We could see a lot of people getting to the point where they're not able to pay their mortgage or not able to pay rent, and then we have a whole new issue to deal with. And so that's a warning sign, because we're talking about banks here. We're talking about banks that know what's going on. Like I was saying, when they know when you're paying your bills and when you're not paying your bills. And if they're saying that credit card delinquencies are up, that is not good. That is not good news. And so you had some of the other CEOs, bank CEOs, saying pretty much the same thing. They're not moving forward with more hiring or anything like that. Right now, everything is on hold until they find out what's going to go on with the debt ceiling, as well as how our economy is going to bounce back. Is this going to be that soft landing that the Federal Reserve is talking about when it comes to inflation, or are we just going to drop into a deep recession? And these companies right now, these banks are letting us know, hey, we have concern, and we're continuing to have concern about some of the things that are going on. And so this is a situation, like I said, and I've said this previous times before, that we really need to control our spending. And I'm talking about individuals, not talking about banks, but we need to watch our spending and save as much as you can right now, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And if we leave it up to politicians to try to figure something out, it might not be to our benefit. And when we know how things work, and we know we're in a situation right now where we have two parties that are just pretty much going at each other over everything, and they don't want to get along, and they don't want to move forward when it comes to doing things that we normally do on a regular basis, like raising the debt ceiling. They don't want to cooperate when it comes to that, and that's causing our economy to worsen. And so we're just going to have to see what happens in the future. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about this. I want to talk more about what's going on in the banking industry and what's going on when it comes to our economy, because that controls everything. And when we're starting to look at, let's say you're on a fixed income, you're receiving Social Security, and one of the major negative impacts that we can see when it comes to people on Social Security is if we have mass unemployment. If we have mass unemployment, these people that are not working, they're not paying into the payroll tax, which is going to Social Security to help with benefits, and that means that the Social Security Administration has to take more money from the trust funds. And if they take more money from the trust funds, that means that 10-year period that they're talking about, that now becomes 7 years, or that now becomes 5 years, because they have to take more money out of the trust funds in order to supplement what Social Security is not able to collect because you have less people in the workforce. And so if our economy is not doing well, it doesn't just affect the people who are currently working, it also affects the people who are on fixed income, the people who are retired. And it might hurt you even more because you're in a situation where you might not be able to just go out and get a job. And so that's a big problem. And so we have to really keep our eye on what's going on with the banks, what's going on with the recession, what's going on in Washington, D.C. And that's why I like to talk about some of these different topics, because when it comes to the banks, they know what's going on when it comes to how much we're spending and where we're spending our money. And so I want to know what you guys think about this. Do you think Congress needs to get their act together and go ahead and move forward with raising the debt ceiling? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.